Andrew Parker Bowles might have moved on after his marriage to Queen Camilla, but is he still cozying up with the royal family?
Many royal titles have been altered for the first time in decades. Further changes affect Queen Consort Camilla.
Queen are leave the thrones and head for the exit.
What happens when the strongest acts of justice don't come from speeches or royal decrees, but from the quiet determination of a mother standing up for her child? Can a brief, meaningful conversation at a school gate shake the foundations of a centuries-old monarchy? On that crisp March morning, with just a few calm but resolute words, Catherine proved that real influence isn't about pomp or privilege. It's about having the bravery to demand fairness and respect in the small, everyday moments that truly matter. It was a reminder that even centuries-old institutions are vulnerable to change.
The monarchy is changing before our very eyes, and arguably it is no bad thing. The monarchy only survives if it adapts to what its subjects want to see in the royal family.
When confronted with the authentic voices of those who carry their legacy forward. In a system built on tradition and protocol, her response wasn't just a personal boundary. It was a bold statement about evolving values. The monarchy's future suddenly hinged on the ability to balance history with humanity, to listen as much as it commands. In those fleeting seconds, Catherine didn't just defend her son, she challenged an entire era to rethink what leadership means today. And as the shockwaves spread far beyond the schoolyard, one question lingered. Could this quiet revolution at the school gates become the blueprint for a new, more compassionate monarchy? A quiet revolution, Catherine's defining moment at the school gates. It was a brisk March morning in London, sunlight filtering through the clouds, school bags slung over shoulders, the usual murmur of weekday routines. No royal carriage, no photographers, just Princess Catherine, the future queen.
After years in the public eye, here's proof that Kate Middleton is ready to be queen. In recent years, Princess Catherine has fully stepped into her role as queen-in-waiting,
holding the small hand of her youngest son, Prince Louis. But within minutes, the ordinary transformed into something unforgettable. This wasn't a political summit or a glamorous state affair. There were no speeches or processions. It began with a greeting, a moment, a sentence spoken too sharply by someone who should have known better. And then, in response, a calm but unmistakable assertion of dignity, rooted not in title, but in love. Catherine didn't raise her voice. She didn't demand headlines. But what she did do echoed across newsrooms, kitchens, and classrooms alike. Because in that moment, the world didn't see a royal. They saw a mother, a woman whose composure, kindness, and clear boundaries showed an entire institution and a generation what grace under pressure truly looks like. Over the years, Catherine has quietly rewritten the playbook for modern royalty. Where others postured, she listened. Where others spoke in platitudes, she engaged with purpose. Her work on early childhood development, mental health awareness, and parenting support has never been performative.
The Princess of Wales is kicking off her biggest solo project yet, introducing Shaping Us to raise awareness for early childhood education.
It has always come from lived belief and personal commitment. She understands that true influence isn't wielded by decree, but by connection. And yet, even those familiar with her strength were unprepared for the clarity she showed that morning. She wasn't just defending her son, she was drawing a line in the sand, a royal line redefined by compassion, not protocol. This was more than a private moment. It was a public declaration of a new kind of leadership, one that values empathy as fiercely as duty. This story, however, is not just about that one encounter. It's about what followed, the tremor it sent through palace walls, the questions it raised about inclusion, respect, and the monarchy's evolving role in a world that demands authenticity over tradition. It's about how one woman's response to a moment of quiet cruelty sparked a louder cultural reckoning, inside and outside Buckingham Palace. So what exactly did Catherine say that left a teacher speechless and a room full of observers in stunned silence? How did her poised reply evolve into a royal turning point? And why, in an age of shifting public trust, did that morning at the school gates feel like the beginning of something bigger? This isn't just another royal drama. It's a reflection of where the monarchy stands and where it's headed. And as we peel back the layers of what really happened that day, you'll see why, sometimes, the future of the crown isn't forged in gold or law, but in the unwavering eyes of a mother who simply says, "Enough." Welcome to the moment that changed everything. Prince William's silent strike, the recording that changed everything. For years, the British royal family has survived by mastering one thing: silence. Not indifference, not ignorance. Calculated, practiced, generational silence. It was the crown's greatest weapon. But all of that changed the moment Prince William signed a document that quietly severed financial ties with Queen Camilla's extended family. No press conference, no leaks, just one signature and a decision that sent shockwaves through Kensington Palace and far beyond. It wasn't just about money. It was about power, betrayal, and a long-buried voice that refused to stay quiet any longer. What triggered this sudden and icy break wasn't a public scandal, but something far more intimate: a private audio file recorded by Andrew Parker Bowles, Camilla's former husband.
Andrew Parker Bowles and Camilla's controversial marriage came to an end after they got divorced in 1995.
And never meant for public ears. In it, he doesn't rage or accuse like a tabloid headline. He simply reflects, calm, tired, and brutally honest. And as that file quietly spread from encrypted group chats to royal aides, and then directly to Prince William himself, it became clear that this wasn't just a family matter. This was a reckoning. The day William listened to the full recording was, by all accounts, a quiet one in the palace. No immediate fallout, no shouting match. But those who were there said something shifted in him. His demeanor, normally composed and warm, turned cold. Not angry, focused. The kind of focus that precedes major moves. That very evening, he requested every financial document, audit, and report tied to Camilla's family. What he found didn't amount to criminal wrongdoing, but it was enough to unravel a system that had been operating, quietly and effectively, for decades. For years, Camilla's extended family had received discreet support, funded through a network of charitable trusts, heritage grants, and soft contracts for advisory roles no one could quite define. It was all technically legal, masked as philanthropy and heritage preservation. But when William looked closer, the pattern was unmistakable. Properties maintained at taxpayer-subsidized rates, educational bursaries rebranded as royal outreach, retainers paid through shell charities. And this wasn't about petty cash. Estimates placed the annual flow of funds at over £5 million. But it wasn't just the money. It was how it lined up with Andrew's voice, his account of a marriage that was never just about love, but about positioning. About a woman who, behind the public warmth, had quietly built a network of control. She hadn't stormed her way into the monarchy. She had engineered a path through marriages, friendships, and finely tuned financial plays. And for the first time, someone who had once stood beside her was saying it out loud. Andrew's voice doesn't drip with bitterness. That's what makes it so compelling. He owns his part in the failed marriage. He doesn't paint himself as a victim.
Andrew Parker Bowles allegedly wasn't innocent and also had his own affairs throughout their marriage.
But his reflections carry weight, especially when he details how Camilla's sudden fascination with trusts, advisors, and legacy institutions began long before Charles re-entered the picture. According to him, it was never just about love. It was about proximity to the throne and how to secure a place that no scandal or public opinion could undo. That narrative hit William hard, not because he didn't know the power dynamics of his own family, but because someone had finally laid bare the quiet machinery of privilege that had helped insulate people not by merit, but by manipulation. The heir to the throne realized he was standing atop a system that in some cases had been subtly weaponized to protect those least accountable. The palace tried to contain it. Aides urged caution. Senior staff whispered that it was better to ride out the storm, to protect appearances. But William wasn't interested in delay. He knew what he heard, and he didn't want to wait for the next leak or the next betrayal. His response came in the form of a formal directive, one that immediately ended every financial tie between the royal estate and Camilla's extended family. No stipends, no retainers, no quiet property upkeep. The pipelines that had once flowed gently and quietly were now bone dry. The reaction inside the palace was nothing short of chaos. Advisors scrambled to interpret what it meant. Legal teams rushed to assess the move's implications. Senior staff, many of whom had served both Charles and Camilla for decades, were stunned, not just by the act itself, but by the speed and finality of it. No consultation, no buffer, just a clear line drawn by the future king.
Conservationist, father, and future king. Prince William is Britain's most popular royal after his grandmother, the Queen.
Camilla, upon learning of the decision, reportedly didn't speak for hours. Those close to her say she wasn't shocked by the outcome. She was shocked by who delivered it. She never believed William would act without the king's counsel. But he had. And that made it clear, this wasn't just a policy change. It was a declaration of values. To understand how we got here, you have to go back decades. Camilla and Andrew's marriage was once the darling of British society, a blend of charm, tradition, and aristocratic ease. They met at a polo match in the late 1960s, both vibrant, confident, and fully immersed in the social whirl of the upper class. They married in 1973 in a ceremony filled with smiles and whispered approval from the royal-adjacent elite. But beneath the polished image, trouble simmered early. Andrew admitted in the recording that he wasn't the most attentive husband. He was career-focused, often distant. But what worried him wasn't the emotional drift. It was the feeling that Camilla was cultivating something else, a different kind of plan. She began attending more philanthropic events, joining boards, engaging in quiet meetings with donors and strategists. What looked like boredom with country life was, to him, a pivot towards something bigger. Then came Charles. Their history was already known, but this time it deepened in ways that Andrew felt powerless to stop. Late-night calls, carefully coordinated schedules, trips to London under vague pretenses. Camilla wasn't hiding her connection to Charles. She was preparing it. Andrew didn't confront her, not directly. But he noticed how easily certain financial discussions disappeared, how quickly new legal advisors were introduced into their private affairs. He began to feel like a temporary figure in her life's blueprint, a placeholder until the true plan could begin. By the time their marriage ended, Andrew was convinced Camilla had secured more than just an emotional connection with Charles. She had embedded herself into the royal structure in ways that went far beyond affection. And years later, as she ascended to Queen Consort, that belief hardened into quiet certainty.
Once known as the other woman, Camilla is now the Queen. Kind of. The new king's darling wife has become the Queen Consort.
William didn't need to believe everything in the recording, but he believed enough. Enough to feel that continuing to funnel royal support toward people who had benefited from Camilla's rise without clear accountability was no longer justifiable. That's when the media frenzy began. Word of William's decision leaked within 48 hours. Major outlets picked up on the financial freeze, and headlines exploded. William breaks with Camilla's kin. Royal rift deepens, monarchy in shock. Camilla's team issued careful statements, downplaying the financial links and suggesting any payments were part of long-standing charitable efforts. But the damage had already been done, and William remained silent. He didn't need to explain. The decision spoke for itself. The fallout reached beyond the family. political commentators began questioning the monarchy's discretionary spending powers. Members of parliament demanded transparency on how royal funds are allocated. Commonwealth nations, already skeptical of their symbolic ties to the crown, watched with renewed interest. And internally, factions formed inside the palace. Some believed William was right, that the monarchy must evolve or crumble under its own secrecy. Others saw his move as dangerous, a betrayal of the internal unity that had kept the institution alive through war, scandal, and public backlash. Meanwhile, King Charles was caught in the middle. He made no official comment, but insiders described him as deeply unsettled. His private conversations with William became rare and formal. With Camilla, they became more frequent, but tense. The palace wasn't just dealing with a family squabble. It was confronting a legitimacy crisis. And Camilla, once hailed as the woman who weathered Diana's shadow, now faced a different kind of reckoning.
The other woman, a home wrecker, someone who destroyed a modern fairy tale, someone who lived in Princess Diana's shadow.
Back in Kensington, William remained focused. This wasn't about vengeance, it was about values. He reportedly told aides, "We cannot ask the public to trust us if we keep trusting what we know is broken." The royal family's crisis was no longer a slow leak. It was a rupture. And as part one of this saga draws to a close, one truth stands above the rest. The next era of the monarchy won't be defined by lineage alone. It will be defined by the choices its future king is willing to make. Camilla's counterstrike and the court in turmoil. Whispers in the palace corridors grew louder after Prince William's decree. Queen Camilla, blindsided, didn't fade into the background. She launched her own response. In private legal meetings, her team pored over William's directive, questioning whether he had the unilateral authority to cut support without first consulting the king. They argued that these funds were not personal favors, but rooted in charitable traditions and historical obligations. Their public strategy was simple: preserve Camilla's dignity while preparing for a robust legal and communications defense. Simultaneously, Camilla met with senior advisors and public relations specialists. Their mission? Contextualize, not contradict. Media outlets received carefully crafted briefing notes underscoring decades of Camilla's silent yet steadfast service, her patronage of mental health charities, her advocacy for veterans, and her environmental work. Social media amplified her state visits, hospital visits, and school tours. The narrative was simple and deliberate. Camilla did this not out of self-interest, but out of duty. Inside the palace, 3 camps formed behind closed doors. Traditionalists argued silence would weather the storm. The transparencers pushed for complete disclosure, believing openness would restore trust. A third, pragmatic faction, the mediators, called for negotiation, a reinstated provision balanced by new transparency protocols. Private debates ranged from, "This can't fracture us further," to, "Trust is rebuilt through truth, not silence." King Charles, caught between his wife and his heir, was in a bind. He convened separate meetings with William and Camilla, but each ended politely, if tensely, with no resolution. Staff began exchanging furtive looks in hallways and meeting rooms. Even afternoon teas felt charged with awkward restraint. Meanwhile, the leak of Andrew Parker's secret recording continued to drag Camilla into public scrutiny. Journalists combed through every detail of her quiet life in the 1960s. Polos, countryside soirees, and subtle allusions to ambition. The transcript resembled a royal Pandora's box, as headlines screamed, "Queen's Ambition Uncovered." Across the Commonwealth, political ripples spread. In Canada, debating MPs revisited royal expenditure scrutiny. In Australia, Republican voices seized on the moment to renew calls for independence. In the Caribbean, leaders highlighted William's move as proof that the crown was not above transparency. The incident had transcended palace fences and test-driven constitutional loyalties. Back in London, Camilla stepped into the spotlight with calculated grace. She visited a children's hospital, met teachers at a primary school project.
The King and Queen have visited the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London. It was part of celebrations for the drama school's 120th anniversary.
And comforted veterans at a centenary ceremony. Her wardrobe softened. Pastels, gentle fabrics, approachable silhouettes, and her tone in speeches emphasized service. Reporters characterized this as her crisis détente tour. Slowly, goodwill began to return. On the other side, William and Catherine became unusually visible. They doubled down on family-focused charity work, especially highlighting fatherhood and emotional literacy. Their speeches underscored honesty, accountability, and empathy, themes that resonated with a public craving transparency. Princess Anne, ever the glue of the monarchy, quietly stepped in. She brokered informal dinners and courtyard meetings, encouraging Charles to bring William and Camilla together. Though tensions eased slightly in her presence, the private chill between father and son and stepmother remained. Camilla's legal team mounted subtle pressure. They pointed out that cutting support could harm scholarships and community centers run by her relatives. Letters flagged possible complications with Crown estate transactions tied to her trusts. These served as gentle yet effective warnings. A full legal battle risked broader institutional fallout. Still, William remained resolute. His calculations showed over £4 million a year funneled towards Camilla-linked charities and properties, with no public oversight. To him, private generosity should not come at the cost of transparency. Inspired by the backlash, he began drafting a royal family finance charter, a proposed internal code outlining accountability and public disclosure of all royal-related finances. By midsummer, the calendar diverged sharply. Camilla carried out garden parties and jubilee ceremonies. William and Catherine launched children's mental health study tours.
Kate Middleton gives a heartfelt speech about the mental health of children. Kate makes a solo appearance at the opening of a children's mental health charity.
Charles moved between engagements with the two camps, but never together. This separation, while polite, was noticeable, a silent signal of unresolved tension. Within tented luncheons and gilded drawing rooms, palace insiders predicted that by late July, a breaking point would arrive. The question was whether the next move would be a breakthrough or a breakdown. William showed no signs of retreating. Camilla kept her shield up. And Charles, caught in the center, watched the palace structure he depended on beginning to crack. Choosing the future, a royal crossroads. As autumn descended upon London, the changing leaves mirrored a monarchy in transition. Inside palace walls, the buzz shifted from conflict to cautious curiosity. Could a path forward be forged? Would Prince William's royal finance charter become official crown policy? Would Camilla find her place again within a more transparent monarchy? Or would the division deepen, an unspoken fissure splitting the House of Windsor? King Charles, sensing both urgency and fatigue among his inner circle, took matters into his own hands. Trusted advisors, some with decades of court experience, urged him toward unity. "This is not the time for fracture," one senior aide was overheard saying. With his health in fragile balance and public expectations shifting, Charles made a strategic move. He began hosting a series of private reconciliation meetings, delicately orchestrated with military-like precision. William and Catherine were invited one quiet Sunday afternoon to Windsor. Camilla received a separate invitation for the following day. The protocol was deliberate. No joint photographs, no media leaks. The tone of these meetings was formal but respectful. Candor was encouraged, but the language remained royal, measured, dignified. And yet, beneath that polished surface, something essential shifted. After days of negotiations, a mutual compromise emerged, one that balanced tradition with modern demands. Camilla agreed to allow an independent audit of trust structures connected to her family's charitable and property arrangements. The audit would ensure that public goodwill wasn't compromised by shadows of favoritism. In return, she would receive a modest annual stipend, officially declared in royal financial disclosures to cover familial support obligations, particularly for long-standing community projects and scholarships. Prince William, in turn, pledged to re-establish a portion of that funding, but routed strictly through official charity channels, governed by clear oversight. It would no longer be discretionary support. It would be structured aid, with every pound accounted for in annual reports. William remained resolute. Public trust could only be preserved through accountability. This was not a retreat, but a reframing. A cautiously optimistic media campaign followed, carefully worded and widely coordinated. Headlines read, "Royal Unity by Transparency," and "A Family Adapts to the Times." Charles issued a short but weighty statement praising William's integrity and forward-thinking vision, and affirming that Camilla remains a cherished and vital partner in royal duty. Camilla, in her own words, acknowledged, "I welcome the opportunity to ensure all contributions and causes remain open and accountable, in keeping with the public's trust." This show of solidarity, however curated, worked. Royal analysts across Britain and the Commonwealth interpreted the move as a decisive shift toward modernization. Commentators noted that for the first time in generations, the monarchy was not merely reacting to scandal, but proactively evolving in line with public ethics. One columnist wrote, "This is not revolution, it's royal reform, the slow, steady redefinition of what royalty means in the 21st century." Within palace walls, aides felt the change. Meeting room doors, once closed with tension, now stood open again. Joint teams from Clarence House and Kensington began collaborating once more. Even in silence, the staff sensed relief. There was laughter again in the Queen's corridor, whispered a long-serving footman. William and Camilla were far from warm, but they spoke. Occasionally, they shared moments of unguarded humor. The past wasn't erased, but it wasn't weaponized either. The king, watching his legacy take shape, seemed visibly lighter. His public appearances carried renewed ease. For a man who had once feared that his reign would be overshadowed by dysfunction, this cautious truce gave him what he craved most: stability. Most importantly, the Royal Finance Charter became formalized into palace policy. All royal charitable contributions, regardless of who initiated them, would be publicly disclosed, complete with audited annual reports and managed by a neutral royal financial officer. These reports would be summarized in the court circular and made available to public and parliamentary review. Transparency, once whispered about, became royal doctrine. Critics, once baying for scandal, found themselves subdued. Many hailed the charter as a historic correction to a legacy of veiled royal finances. Supporters of the monarchy embraced it as a healthy evolution, praising William for leading the crown into a more conscientious age. Some traditionalists grumbled about eroding mystique and feared future overreach by the media. But even they conceded the charter was inevitable. Better it be led from within than forced from without. As winter set in, the winds softened around the palace grounds. Snow blanketed the gardens of Windsor and Sandringham, and public sentiment began to thaw. Camilla's approval ratings, battered just months earlier, quietly ticked upward. The public rediscovered her commitment to veterans, her visits to hospice patients, her literary programs for underprivileged children. Journalists returned to her decades of charity work, steadfast, unglamorous, and profoundly human. Prince William's public profile surged. He was seen not only as an heir, but as a reformer, someone willing to make difficult decisions in service of a long-term vision. He had refused to let sentiment block reform, yet had remained open to compromise. His alignment with modern values, especially honesty, emotional intelligence, and ethical leadership, resonated across generations. And King Charles, once caught in the storm, now re-emerged as a figure of unity. He did not pick sides. Instead, he oversaw the construction of a bridge between tradition and transformation. The months of turmoil gave way to a fragile yet firm recalibration of royal purpose. There would always be tension in a family as complex as this one. But in choosing cooperation over collapse, they had demonstrated something far more powerful than control: the capacity to listen, adapt, and endure. The royal crisis of 2025 ended not in scandal, but in silent transformation. What seemed like a fracture within the family became a crucible, shaping a future monarchy that could be open and trusted. William's decisive action against secrecy forced change, not collapse. Camilla's steady goodwill and public service helped reconcile past discord. And King Charles, caught in the middle of tradition and transformation, navigated the transition with careful grace. The monarchy that emerges is the one the world now expects: accountable, relatable, and resilient. The Wales family's move wasn't just about money. It was about values. In a single gesture, William drew a line that invited the crown into a new era. So, was his move reckless or courageous? The answer lies not in headlines, but in the seasons to come. The royal family stepped through a storm, not with fireworks, but with quiet integrity. And they face the future knowing that power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers in boardrooms, signs documents in silence, and reshapes legacies by the gentlest of reckonings. Let us know what you think. Did the monarchy need this shakeup, or did it risk too much? And if you want more royal revelations, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the next video. The story continues, right here.